Hi there, it's been a while, but I want to tackle custom blocks again. Around about 2 years ago, I already made a video of custom blocks in Minecraft with data packs, and you guys liked it pretty much. And since then, a few new Minecraft versions came out, and many of you also had an idea for a better technique. So in this video, I will show you in depth how this technique works. We'll go through texturing, modeling. I show you a brand new generator that generates these custom blocks in a few minutes. We'll go over the data pack, and in the end I also show you how you can program this yourself in my framework objD. There's also an API for this. You can skip to the timestamps but down below. We'll start right with the textures with the resource pack, but before that I want to give you a brief understanding of how this actually works and why you have to create your own resource pack for it. These are actually normal blocks here. And you can see there are these spawn eggs right here. So you basically have two options here. You can either use an armor stand with this item here on the head, or you can use an item frame. With 1.16 you can make them invisible and also fixed you, so you can't manipulate them. And the resource pack that we'll create in a second takes care of modeling these items here. So they have a perfect model that fits over this block here. And it also takes care of moving this item here down into the block so that it will look like as if the block has a different texture. But actually keep in mind, there are actually vanilla blocks below these textures here. So you can't change the breaking behavior, for example, or the sounds easily. Of course, you can download this sample resource pack here in the description below, so you can take a look at this yourself. Basically want a folder structure like this, assets, then Minecraft, and here textures. Here you can see I prepared a few textures that we'll use to make our block. For some blocks you also need multiple textures. So for example this asset grass here has one for the side, for the bottom and for the top. And then in the Minecraft folder here we also have another folder called models. In here there are all the 3D models. So for the items in the game there is an extra folder here. This is called item. We'll need that later. And I also encourage you to create an own folder for your model. So I will just name this custom here. Just choose a name that fits you. Now you can look in the description. There are two links for some models I already provided. One is called block head. This is for the armor stand, so for an item that is placed on the head of an armor stand. And this here is for an item frame. These two models here won't help us. To create our blocks, we have to make our own models. This is fairly easy. The best way to do this is a text editor. For example, I use Visual Studio Code. So in my case, I can just press Shift and right click, then go onto PowerShell here. And here I want to type code dot. And then we have our folder here opened in the editor. And we can also look at these files here with some highlighting and colors. So here we want to create a new file. Let's just go for the brick and then add .json to it. And it is pretty easy to create the custom block here. You have to start to create these brackets here and then say parent. And for our case, this is the custom folder here. If you've chosen another name, use this name and then the version we want to use. So in this case, we want to use item frame version. So we just write block. This could also be named differently here, but it basically has to match the folder and the other model in here. And then we want to provide some textures. Here we want to write the first texture, so 0, and this will then be basically brick. Again, this relates to the textures folder right here. There we have one texture that is named brick.png. And Minecraft will take this texture here from the textures folder and apply it to the model, just to make sure. I also want to apply this texture to the particle. Probably don't need this. And this was it. I will quickly create another one, this time around with the file explorer here. So here you can also just copy one file, paste it again, and then rename it to whatever we want, like red brick. And in our editor we can see the JSON file popped up here. Of course we want to change texture to red brick, and also for the particle. And our parent, because this time we want an armor stand for this, this will be block underscore add. Maybe you also want to create a more complex model. This can be easily achieved with Blockbench. That is a program to create Minecraft models. I'll put you the download link in the description. And here you just want to create a new Java block or item. Give it the file name you want, for example acid grass, and the parent model here again will be custom block. And then we can confirm it, and we have our empty space here. So first of all, I want to import some textures. I will just drag them in here, and then we want to add a cube here. Make sure this is sized. Again, you can create more complex models here. Now to texture this, select the sides up here. So for example up, and provide the up texture here. Down there will be bottom texture, and on all sides have our acid grass texture. There we go. And now we can just press Ctrl S to save this and go into Assets, Minecraft, Models, Custom, and there we go. And in our text editor, we can also see this model has been created here. We have imported a few textures here and created an element. So I've quickly added a few more blocks here. And now one more step is missing to add our models to the game. Starting off, I added this item folder here. And in here we can override the default Minecraft items, because Minecraft needs some way to know where our new models are. So in this case we want to create custom models for an existing item. We'll take the chicken spawn egg. Make sure you take any spawn egg, but everything else will not work for the custom blocks. So click on new text document, and we want to name this chicken spawn egg.json. Make sure this is exactly spelled like this, or any other spawn egg. And then we can open it in the text editor again. There we go. And this has a pretty similar structure as the other models. Again, these brackets again. Then parent, this is an item node. So we choose the item model and held. Then we also have to give it some default textures. This will be layer 0 from the item textures on egg. So this will just make sure that the default Minecraft item has still the Minecraft texture. Now the important part, we want to override something. So we just write overrides and then these square brackets here. Now we can provide a list of custom models that we want to apply to this item. So we first have to specify which. So ready. Again these brackets here, and then custom underscore data, and this is just a number that is representative of this model. Each custom model that you add here has this sort of ID, so it has a unique identifier. I really like to prefix, for example with this here. Now of course we also have to let it know which model we want to choose. This version here of the chicken spawn egg. And this will be custom /acid grass. Again, this here should be equal to the custom path in the models folder and your model that you provided here. So now you just have to copy and paste this here for each model that you add. I've done this quickly. And of course, each model has to have its own ID. So you always know which ID has which model. So now this was it for the resource pack. We're up and running, and we can load it right into Minecraft. And now we can jump to the more interesting part, online generator. You can visit it at the URL stevatus.com/tools/blocks. Here you're greeted with this interface. On the left here you have a list of all your blocks, and you can also add right here. Then on the right panel here you can edit some properties. So I've chosen the first block here. We want to name this acid grass, of course, and you can also notice this ID right here also gets automatically generated. Of course you can also edit, and then of course we want to select our item. By default I've already provided chicken spawn egg, so we just leave it like. Just keep in mind you can't use any other item I'll explain this later. The count can be left out, and here we have our model ID. This has to be exact the number that you provided as model. In my case, this was this ID here. And then we also have another field here for NBT data. So for example, if you want to color your text or add a description to the item, but I will leave it empty. So now you have some check marks here. By default, this generator will put every item into one pack inside of a data pack, but you can also generate multiple namespaces with this option right here. We'll take a look at the code later. Then we can choose if we want to use item frame or armor stand. One disadvantage of the armor stand is that we can't place an armor stand directly inside the block. Turn a bit darker, so we can also set the armor stand on fire here. Now this is important here, block to use underneath. So this is actually the block underneath this model here, like you've seen in the beginning. And of course we want to choose grass here. You can use any vanilla block. And the last field here are custom entity tags. This is when you want to customize it even more. For example, to add some functionality to the blocks. To add multiple tags, you can just separate them by comma. I will quickly add a few more blocks here. This would be everything. And you can also quickly switch between the blocks here on the right side here. If you're finished configuring all the blocks, you can just download Datapack and it puts a finished.zip file in your downloads folder. Sadly, if you close this window right here, all the progress is cleared, so you have to start over. So now, back in Minecraft, we can try it out. So make sure you equip your custom resource pack here that you created. It will quickly reload the game. And now to get the block, we can just run the set function from our specified block here, and a brick inside of our data pack. And there we go, we have our custom block right here with the texture applied, and it also has some functionality. So if you break it, here's here, you will get this in the inventory and you can place it wherever you want. You can also combine the system with my custom crafting generator. You'll find the link for this in the description. And here we have it, all of our custom blocks inside of Minecraft. So now I've opened the data pack and we'll take a quick look behind the code. As you can see, in our data pack we have a few different namespaces. You can of course decide if you want to create a new namespace for a block or use the common custom blocks namespace here. And here we also have one custom block, the ender brick. So here the generator just generates another folder instead of a namespace. Minecraft isn't very happy about adding new blocks, so the workaround to custom blocks is the resource pack and then also some functions behind it to give it some functionality. So let's open one of these blocks here. And of course we have a main.mc function here. This is registered in the tick.json, so it will execute 20 times a second. Here you can see the entity objD asset grass. And this is basically the armor stand or item frame displays the block. And here we just run another function every tick from this entity. And then we have one other command that is executed from an area effect cloud. And it has a tag salmon asset grass. As I mentioned before, you have to choose a spawn egg for this. And the reason for this is that we can right click with our spawn egg. Previously I have chosen the firework to do this, but turns out this is rather nasty because you can literally set fireworks inside of blocks. You have to do some alignment to get the right block, and of course you have particles. So now I've chosen spawn egg as many of you suggested, and of course one issue is that it spawns an entity here that we have to kill or somehow teleport. But you have noticed that we can override this entity that a spawn egg will spawn inside a NBT tag. So I've changed the chicken spawn egg here to spawn an area effect cloud. This is basically an invisible entity, so we can just place it, and then our code will notice, oh, there is an area effect cloud with the specified tag here. So I will just run the function asset grass set. We can take a look at this function here. And of course we set our block here. Then there's another command here that clears the chicken spawn egg for everyone that is in creative, just a little feature. And in the end we summon our item frame entity that has the invisible and fixed tag, but also the chicken spawn egg item with the custom model data inside. And then we also give it the tag objD asset grass to detect the main functionality here. If you want to do this manually, we can just place a frame here, and then inside this item frame here we have our asset grass. And this basically works the same with the armor stand. So there is a block inside, and then this custom model here on its head, and this will be displayed right at the size of this block here. I just experimented a bit with the system here, and usually this entity right here would turn dark because a block is inside it, but it seems like they fixed it at some point because the entity right now is not dark. And for example with the wood here, you can see the texture is displayed correctly. Usually you had to take a non-solid block like gas here for example, and then the armor stand will not turn black. Or another solution was make the entity burn so it would be bright all the time. The downside of this is of course that it also emits light in the night, but it would be brilliant if this bug here was fixed. And you can place blocks inside of a marker armor stand. We have to experiment with this a bit more. So here in the wood functions you can see there is another function called fire timer. For this specific block I've ticked the fire check mark, so it generates the extra function here. It just merges the NBT data to set entity on fire, and then we schedule this exact function here again at 1200 ticks. So the entity is basically always on fire. So now there are two other functions left in this data pack. One is of course the block function. This one gets executed 20 times a second by the entity that represents the block. So here you could also customize, add your own functionality to this entity. The same also goes for the set function. You can add your own commands here, do whatever you want. But back here, we just test if a player is near, and then we check if the block that we assign to our custom block is missing. And then we just run the function break. Of course, if the player is near the block and breaks the block that is underneath our custom model, we also want to break our custom model. And yes, I know there are more elegant solutions. This is not the most performant version of this, checking every tick for a block. You could also do it with loot tables, advancements, but this here is the simplest. So, and then our last function is the break function. This just kills every item that gets dropped by the initial block. And then we summon another item here that has the ID chicken spawn egg, our custom model data, then also our override to the entity, in this case the area effect cloud. And last but not least, we kill the entity, executed this function. This would always be the item frame or armor stand. That's basically it. This is a very simple way to make custom blocks, and I hope the generator helps with it. Of course, you can deeply customize it, run something on break, run something if the player sets a block, and so on. And there we go, we have all of our blocks here. We have created our resource pack, generated the data pack, and everything works out fine. But the system is by no means perfect. Of course, there could be any bugs or issues that you're having. Of course, you can download this data pack and resource pack in the description below and see if something is missing in your data pack. And you can also contact me on my Discord server for any help. The link will be below. Now I also want to quickly go over objD API. This lets you customize these custom blocks even more with a full-featured programming language as a generator. If you're not familiar with objD or not interested in this, have a nice day. So there we go, we are in our objD workspace. Created a quick project here called blocks. And it is also important that you install the objD version 0.3.3. Our custom blocks are included in the version here. And then I've also got the index.dart here that has the main function, creates a project, named custom blocks template, targets one folder above, so this one right here. And then we want to generate our blocks template widget here. We have to create this. Let's create a file, blocks start. And in here, of course, we objD core here. And for our custom blocks, we also have to import objD / custom block.dart. Now we can write a widget class. I have a handy shortcut here with WDG. I can generate a basic widget template, and we want to return tag custom underscore blocks. As you can see, this is basically this folder right here, this namespace, and in here we can use modules list. As you may know, a module is basically a normal widget that has also the to generate other files, add something to the main.mc function, and so on. So it does everything automatically. Our custom block is such a module, so we can just custom block right here, and you can see there are a ton of arguments. They all relate to the online generator, because like the other generators, the online version is built on top of this objD version here, so it is just a nice user interface to generate these widgets here in the background. Of course, our custom block needs an ID, and each block has to be unique. So for the asset grass, you just name it asset underscore grass. Then we can hover over it. Second argument here should be an item. This will also be the item that is used as a spawn egg for placing the items and displaying the model. Let's just take items dot chicken spawn egg. We want to give it a model, and we can also give it a custom name that has the name asset. And of course, like every text component, you can also color this and add more things to it. So just to demonstrate this, give it the color green. And of course, to get these custom names right, we also want to disable italic. So now the last thing that is required for our block, and this is also why it is underlined like this, is that the block is missing. So this is the block that is underneath. So here we just use blocks.grass. So this would be everything for our custom block. Again, remember you can just take a spawn egg for the item. I can also quickly change this for something like apple and generate the entire data pack here. Takes a while, and now you can see failed assertion. You have to provide a spawn egg. Change it back to chicken spawn egg, and we can see we have our custom blocks namespace here with actually a main.mc function that is not used. Also our asset grass namespace here with all the functions that we discussed. Now, of course, you can also use your own tags with this custom block. So let's say you want to give it a tag called my custom tag, then everything will be switched. And it also adds my custom tag to the item frame in this case. Of course, you can enable or disable to use the item frame with the item frame argument here. So you can just set it to true and it will use an item frame. And then you've seen this generated a new namespace here. We can also disable this by setting generate pack false. Then if we delete this here again, and we can see in our custom blocks here, it created a new folder called objD blocks, and inside that asset grass folder with all the functions. Of course, there are a few more options, like for example the block model. This is another item that you can use as a model for our block. And in this case, this will just override this item here to display the block model. Nothing big. But what you can actually do with objD is use onBreak and onPlaced argument here. So onBreak obviously will be executed if the block breaks. So we can just log broken, and then for onPlaced, placed. Now if we place it, we can see it logs placed, and if we break it, it says broken. So this is an easy way to trigger some advancements or implement some custom functionality. And we also have an argument called main. This is just a widget that gets inserted into this block.mc function here. So it runs 20 times a second at the location of the block. Did I forget anything? Oh, of course you can use fire argument here to set the entire thing fire. And you can also use high offset. So of course I want to give you the possibility to shift the armor stand up and down. So you can also use one here to one block above. Of course you have to change the model for that. And then if you want to leave this entire text component here, you can also provide an argument called name here, call it asset grass, and this will automatically insert a custom name into this item here. This would be everything for the custom block API in objD. Thank you all for watching a slightly longer video, but I hope it helps some people. I would be very happy to see you soon.